No, don't even try that. I need you to actually just pay attention, okay? All right, here we go. Question of the day. How can we use sprites? Oh, sorry, for the recording, this is period 2B. We are starting lesson 7 on code.org. This is the sprites lesson. We finally get to start moving into some more complicated elements other than just shapes. So if you're completely lost, by now, we're going to leave you even more further in the dust. So hopefully you've been understanding of what's going on, because we're moving on. This is going to be fun. How can we use sprites to help us keep track of lots of information in our programs? Hussein, cover down. You too, Michelle. In order to create more interesting and detailed images, the class is introduced to the sprite object. The lesson starts with a discussion of the various information that programs must keep track of, then presents sprites as a way to keep track of that information. Students then learn how to assign each sprite an image, which greatly increases the complexity of what can be drawn on the screen. Okay, so we have what's called dot notation, which is going to be very important for you to understand as we go through the next several lessons. The way that Sprites properties are used in Game Lab by connecting the sprite and property with, you guessed it, a dot. Property, a label for a characteristic of a sprite, such as its location and appearance. Sprite, a character on the screen with properties that describe its location, movement, and look. So we have draw sprites, which is going to be a group that you draw, and you have var sprite equals create sprite, x, y, width, and height. Okay, so lots of new code. So as I said, if you are having difficulty up to this point, it's going to get a whole lot harder starting today. So hopefully everyone's been keeping up. All right, so let's look at this. This program uses some new blocks that you haven't seen before. With your partner, read the code and discuss how you think it works. Change some lines and see what happens. What do you think each line is doing? Okay, so let's go back to the block view for those who are still liking block view. So look at the code and then talk with the person sitting next to you. Let me show you what it does. And then you're going to talk to the people to kind of figure out how it does what it does. Okay, here's what it does. Okay, so talk with someone. I'm going to pause the recording and theorize what's happening with everybody. Okay, so welcome back. We are looking at these lines and we're discussing what happens on each of these lines. So, okay, it creates a variable for what? For a fruit. Okay, so we see this label, we recognize var, we've seen it before. And so we're creating a var called fruit on line 1. What about this thing here? What is this create sprite doing? What do you guys think this is doing? Pat? Okay, we're creating a type of variable, special type of variable called a sprite. So we need to make sure we understand this isn't a number. Okay, what does a number store? A variable that's a number. What would it have? Is it going to have text? Is it going to have words? What's it going to have, guys? Logan. Okay. When we're talking about sprites, yes, but if we have a variable that's just a number, it's a type number, it stores a number. So I can store 10, I can store 100, I can store -15, I can store 75. All of those are just numbers. Can I make apple, the word apple, into a number? No, it's not going to work. It's the wrong type. Okay, when we create variables, we also create a type of variable. So we have integers, which are numbers. We have strings, which have text in them. And in this case, we're learning about another type of variable called a sprite. Okay, so a sprite is a special type of variable because it contains other information, not just a value, but it contains lots of other things. So what are these numbers here where we have the create sprite, the 100 and 200? What do those mean? Annabelle. Those are the X and Y positions where the sprite is going to be located, okay? So it's going to be at 100 and 200, which is right where this apple here is, okay? Now, notice here this set animation. Watch what happens if I don't set the animation. Even though I called it fruit, what does it display, Logan? A boring square. Okay, the default for a sprite, when we display the sprite, is just going to be a boring square. So when we set the animation, we are, instead of showing the square, we're going to show, if we click here, in animation, we're going to show one of these pictures that we put in. So I can put other pictures in if I want. So say I don't like apple or carrot. Let's say I want an orange or ice cream cone. Right? So let's make ice cream one of my animations. And then back in my code, if I wanted to show the ice cream instead, what do I change? Patton? What's your question? Yeah. Yeah, so on animation, and you'll get into this a lot later as well. You can create your own. So draw your own, and you can draw whatever you want, okay? So on here, if I wanted an apple, if I wanted ice cream instead, I just click on this arrow, do ice cream, and bada bing. Even though the variable's named fruit, what does it show, class? Ice cream, because I set my animation to ice cream, okay? So even though the name is fruit, whatever I set the animation to is what it's going to be. I mean, I can make this a carrot if I wanted, okay? So I just have two carrots, right? But the first one is fruit and the second one is vegetable, okay? So that's what's happening here. Whenever you deal with sprites, not only do you have to create or initialize the variable, but you also have to assign it what animation you want to show. Then, even after you do that, this command right here, this draw sprites, is crucial. Because if I don't draw the sprites, I don't see anything. Are the sprites still there? Yeah, I created them. They're located here and here, but I don't see them because I never drew them, okay? So that's another thing that students really struggle with working with sprites, is they're like, I made the sprite, why isn't it showing up on the screen? Because you have to draw the sprite in order for it to appear. This is different from rectangle and ellipse, because this draws it when you call that command. When you're working with a sprite and you initialize the sprite, it doesn't draw the sprite, it just puts it there, but you don't see it until it's drawn. Dale. Yeah, if you have it programmed to collide with the object and you don't see the object, even though you don't see the object, it's still there. And so if you're looking to see when it collides with it, it'll execute that command once it collides with it, whether or not you are able to see it or not. Excellent questions. Okay, so hopefully And this is just the beginning. So I'm not going to go into everything on how all sprites work because you're going to be learning that as you go through this lesson and future lessons. Okay, but I wanted you right at the beginning to understand and comprehend that when we're working with sprites, we have to, first of all, create them, and then we have to set their animation, and then we finally have to draw them before we can see them. If we don't do any of those three, then you're not going to be able to see the sprite, or it's not going to look the way you want it to look. Okay, so we'll finish this. We got a nice little video that talks about sprites right here. Okay.
If you want to animate a single shape in GameLab, you can quickly end up with a lot of variables to manage. You'll need one to store the shape's X position, one to store the Y position, one for width, one for height, and as you add fills, strokes, and other characteristics, you'll need even more variables. If you want to animate additional shapes, you'll need to create a whole other set of variables. All this can quickly lead to problems with organization and clarity in your code. So what's an elegant and manageable way to keep track of all these variables? The solution is to start animating with sprites. Think of a sprite like a character that lives inside your animations. At first, a sprite would pretty much just be a rectangle. But the beauty of a sprite is what it has going on behind the scenes. When you make a sprite, it comes with properties, which are variables that store the characteristics of a sprite. Properties describe things like where the sprite is located on the screen, what it looks like, and what color it is. To create a new sprite, use the create sprite command. You can assign your sprite a label just like you would a variable. This code is creating a new sprite and giving it the label mySprite. But you can label it anything you like. Just like shapes, sprites need to be drawn to the screen. Use the draw sprites command to see your sprite appear in the display area. You can control a sprite's properties in your program by using dot notation. First, connect the label of the sprite to the label of the property with a dot. Now you can use this just like a variable. So for example, mySprite.x gets 200 will update the sprite's x location to 200. And mySprite.width gets 50 will update the sprite's width to 50. The next time you call draw sprites, these new property values will be used to draw the sprite. Sprites can have tons of properties. As you get familiar with them, they'll give you powerful controls over what your sprites look like and can do.
Okay, so here's the big question of the day. Why do we need sprites? We've been learning how to draw stuff. What do we need sprites for, Noah? Okay, so Aaliyah, what he was, and those of you watching this recording, if anyone actually ever watches it, what Noah was saying is, in the past, we've been learning how to draw just a scene that's static. It doesn't move. Nothing is going to interact with each other. But if you're going to make a game, you want to be able to move your character around. You want to be able to blow up the bad guys. You want to be able to collect the treasure. You want to be able to jump over the pits, okay? But in order to move something, you have to redraw it somewhere else. And so if you're doing that with the methods we've been using, you have to keep track of tons of information. As they showed in the video, they've got all of these properties that you have to assign to values and all of this stuff, and it can get really messy, and you can lose track of things and end up really kind of getting lost in what's going on. And so a sprite contains all of those properties inside of the sprite. And so you can just refer to those properties and it will store all of that for you. And so that's the reason why we're using sprites, is because we want to be able to animate and have the things that we're controlling on the screen be able to move and be able to interact with other elements in our games. So we're creating a sprite. Var sprite equals create sprite creates a new sprite and assigns it to a variable. The default name is sprite, so you'll want to change it to something more meaningful. Sprites only appear on the screen when you draw them there. Calling draw sprites will draw all of your created sprites on the screen. So your program includes comments that will let you know where to place code, but is otherwise blank. Your program should look like the image on the right. Okay, so right now it's got nothing, right? So we need to add var sprite equals create sprite under comment creating sprites. You can ignore the yellow triangle. Warning for now, it's just telling you haven't used your sprite yet. Add draw sprites under the comment drawing, run the code, and draw your first sprite on the screen. Okay, so draw sprites here, and then create sprite here, and voila, I've got my block. Pretty easy, right? Okay. Notice what they said here. This is helpful as well. Remember when we drew rectangles, it always started drawing from what part of the rectangle? The top left, okay? They said something to note here is that sprites are drawn from their center, which means that the center of the square, not the top left corner, is at 200, 200. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. Yes, Pat? To do the dot, it's just a period if you're typing it out. Yeah, great question. Pat was wondering how you make the dot they're referring to in the video. You just use the period. So this program should create two new sprites, one on the left of the screen and one on the right, but it's only drawing one. You don't need to add any code. Just rearrange the code already present to make sure that both sprites show up like the picture on the right. So what is going on? Who can tell me the solution to this puzzle, AJ? Yes, the draw sprite command is in the middle. So we've created the first one, but we haven't created the second one yet. So it's drawing the first, second one's there, we just can't see it. So if you just go to show blocks, then you can move this on down here, and bada bing, we got it. Okay? I'm trying to get to a hard one, and then I'll show it to you, and then you can get to work. All right, so adding animation. So, ooh, this one's cool. Program draws 4 sprites to the screen, and one of them has an animation from the animation tab. So run the code to see what happens. Look in the animation tab to see what the animations are available to you. Feel free to alter your animations or choose a new one. Use the set animation command to change the look of your other sprites. So this one makes a little alien. Woohoo! And I kind of showed this to you earlier, but if we click on animation tab, we got a bunny, we got a flybot, we got a plane. I'm gonna do, I'm kind of hungry. So we're gonna do some pizza. Yeah, pizza slice. Okay, so all we're gonna do here is show text, and we'll just copy this set animation thing a couple times. 1, 2, 3. And we'll change this to top left. Maybe it'll let me select, nope, okay. I just gotta do bottom left sprite. What are we gonna make that one? We'll make it pizza. All right, nice. We'll do the top right sprite. We'll make that one the flybot. And we'll do top left. Come on. Top left, and that one will be the plane. Boom, baby. Oh, wait. I got to change it to plain. There we go. All right. Oh, good question. Why is the pizza so big? Because in our animation here, you can see the size of these images. And then if we look at this one, see, this is 128 by 156. This one is 300 by 200. So I can crop it. I don't want to crop it. I want to resize it. So I got to do the scale, resize, resize, start in the middle, and we'll make it 150. Maintain aspect ratio, resize. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Resize canvas content. Hold on. We're gonna undo. There we go. Undo, Control Z. We're gonna resize the canvas content as well, and we're gonna do 150 by 100. All right. So it looks the same, but when we go and rerun this, it's smaller. Look at that. Yeah. Genius. Okay. So this is going to talk a little bit more about what we just did. But that's about what I'm going to do to introduce this. Any questions on what we did, what we're doing, what's going on? Okay. So hopefully those of you watching this later are going to be able to get this. Thanks for tuning in. Leah. We're going to stop the recording here. So if you have any other questions, those of you watching this later, I am available on Fridays from 9 to 11, and I can help and look at your code so that you can figure out these puzzles.